Hello, what's up, Guru Nation? Welcome in to the Guru Nation podcast. I'm your host, Spencer the Guru, back here to get into a brand new scouting episode today. That's right, y'all. We're going to really break down the film and talk about who the top prospects are in this upcoming 2022 NFL draft class. I know a lot of y'all tune in here for fantasy, which we'll talk about that a little bit here, but today's episode will mainly be focused on which prospects are the top ones. We'll break all that down. Which ones could be rising up boards, which ones are falling down boards, and of course, where they would fit in with certain NFL teams, which teams would be the top landing spots for these guys. It's all going down next Thursday, of course, in Las Vegas. It'll be a good time there. Be tuned in to see what happens. I know my Saints have 2 first-round picks, so it'll be really interesting to see what they do with all those. But anyway, let's get into this episode here. So since this is scouting, it's going to be scouting focused. I decided to bring on a special guest. He's a buddy of mine, a co-worker at bet.nola.com. Y'all make sure to go check that out. We're powered by Caesars Sportsbook. For those that are looking to get into sports betting, y'all can go check out our sign-up link, nola.com/Caesars. But anyway, without further ado, let's bring him on. He's a film junkie, y'all. This dude loves watching film in his spare time like me. Heck, he's probably even more up on it than me because he's a big college football fan as well. So he's keeping tabs on it 24/7, 365, all that. So let's get him on here, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, Mr. Devin Jackson, our special guest for today. Devin, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good, man. About a week out from the draft, so really just trying to make it to the finish line and just finish list of players I still have to go. And it's not because I don't know who they are or haven't seen them, just kind of finalizing grades and whatnot. And we talked about a little bit off the air, but excited to be here on the show, man, and excited to talk ball.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, most definitely, man. So before we get into it, it's your first time being on the Guru Nation podcast. We've done a lot of shows together on bet.nola.com. But for those just meeting you, let the people know what got you into this stuff. What got you into watching film and being so tuned in with football?
Yeah, so I have a background in football. Grew up playing it, watching it, really consuming it, and probably since I was 5, 6 years old, understanding the sport and watching it, because of my dad, he used to watch all the games. So for me, football has always been a part of my life. I didn't get to really play it until like 7th and 8th grade, and then I took a couple of years off in high school just to play basketball the first couple of years, but found my way back to football junior year of high school. And then growing up, you watch the NFL draft, the ESPN with the big coverage of it, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, obviously the two big names that people kind of recognize in terms of scouting. But for me, watching film was something I had to do for, playing high school football. Then I played college ball at a small school in Illinois. And then so film wasn't something new to me, but in terms of actually scouting, got into it 2019, like towards the end of that draft class with Kyler Murray and all those guys, and I got to the tail end of it, but then went into the next year, the 2020 class, and that's when I really started to grow a love for it and appreciate it. And so really since the 2020 draft, I've covered 2020, 2021, and then obviously this year, 2022. And started off with a few smaller sites, still right on the side for those, for one of them, Blue Chip Scouting. But I joined them like in like the tail end of the 2020 draft, and then been riding with them since. But I've had some other stops along the way, writing and producing content for Steelers Depot, as well as for I worked for a short time at Sports Illustrated as well, and did some work for them too. But I've really enjoyed that as kind of a dichotomy to what I've done like in my day to day job. Obviously do a lot with betting and uh, digital content producing for our sports departments. But in my spare time, I like watching film, breaking down these prospects, and you know and being able to sit down with some of these guys as well and do some interviews with them. It's been a fun kind of experience for me.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I forgot to mention in the intro that you're a digital content producer with Bet Nola, but yeah, man, I didn't realize your resume was that long, man. You got a lot going on there, and still do with watching all the films. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a fun episode. I used to always do like back in the day. I'd always want to do a mock draft and all that and keep up with it. But yeah, the past couple of years though, like you said, around when you started with 2020, that's kind of the same for me. Like when the pandemic hit, I had a little more free time. So I started thinking, like, you know what's something I could do to really improve like my knowledge and get my content a little more in depth rather than just speculating like, oh, he might go here, he might go there. Let's watch some. I was like, let's watch film of these guys to really see like who'd be a good fit where and kind of have some better logic behind it rather than just going off of what the latest quote unquote sources are thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun experience because you see so many guys that you look 2 3 years down the line, you wonder why they fell to like the third or fourth round or fifth round. So for me, that's kind of what was a turning point for me. It really confirmed that it's something I want to do in my free time because I remember watching Jordan Fuller, for example, for who plays for the Rams now. He ended up going in the sixth round, but then he became their starting safety and a key piece the last couple years, especially this year for their Super Bowl run. And then I look at it like other players across the league that have had that same story. I mean, even Alvin Kamara to a certain degree, he fell to the third round, and we've seen how he's panned out for the Saints. And Eric McCoy, another third round pick, he's panned out for the Saints. And seeing all these guys that they're better than some of their cohorts, but they end up falling or just not going where you expected them to go. So for me, I think it's an enjoyable process because everyone sees these players differently. And obviously, like the top 10, 15 guys, they all are, pretty much borderline across most people. Really, after 15, 16, that's where things start to differ. So I really enjoy hearing people's processes, how they got into these different conclusions and how they are different from the league because the NFL may pick these guys in certain spots or situations, but that doesn't mean they're going to pan out or that they're correct in their evaluation. So it's always interesting to see or check your work against the NFL teams.
Yeah, very true, man. Very true. So yeah, let's take a stab at it and see what we think of these guys. We got our big board pulled up here, position by position. We're gonna kick things off with the positions that I know y'all are itching to talk about the skill positions, and we'll start with quarterback. Devin, you're up on all that. I'm sure having played in high school. Is quarterback a skill position technically or no? Because it's like what is quarterback considered? Is it just a quarterback? Like I think it's skills, running back, receiver, tight ends.
Yeah, I think with quarterback, I think it. I mean, you do have to be pretty skilled to play quarterback. So I think I would consider it still a skill
Oh,
position,
okay,
just
okay.
because kind of modern NFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, all those dual threat guys. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be able to move and get outside the pocket and make plays off schedule. So I think I would definitely consider quarterback as a skill position.
Okay, and then like, what about defensively? Is it like are cornerbacks considered skill players, or is it
Yeah,
just offense?
cornerbacks, linebackers, safeties, I think would all qualify because they all have versatile roles. I think defensive linemen, offensive linemen, they're skilled, but they're not skilled positions.
Yeah, yeah. As far as like guys that are doing more, like guys that go beyond just like the line of scrimmage or skilled players.
Right.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Always good get a brush up on that knowledge. But anyway, let's get into quarterbacks here. We'll start with the quarterback position, and I'm not trying to hate on these guys, but from what I've seen from him and just from what I've heard as far as the draft stock and all that, this is a really weak quarterback class. I mean, these guys. I mean, this is just compared to last year where we had 5 sure thing first rounders. This year, I mean, I've got Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett as sure thing first rounders. But I mean, but that's, I think, a product of the weak class. Like if they had come out last year, they'd probably be, I don't even know if they'd make the first round because I don't think any of them would be ranked above Mac Jones, who was the QB5 from last year. So I guess to start, Devin, just what are your overall thoughts on this class? Do you think these guys are a little bit slept on, or is the criticism justified?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. So compared to the recent classes, they don't really compare per se because there's not a guy that is complete or near even near completion in terms of their development. All these guys, while they have some alluring traits or some alluring ability or alluring skill set per se, I don't think they are necessarily a, can't miss, must have quarterback, in this class. I do think with Malik Willis, and I agree with you at him having him at number one because he's also my number one quarterback. I think he has special ability. He makes some special plays and plays that no other quarterback in this class can make, which makes sense and warrants why he's probably going to go first round and likely in the top 10. So that makes a lot of sense for me. But with a lot of these other guys, I think they do a few things well, but in terms of their comprehensive game, there are things that are glaring weaknesses. Like you go down the list, Kenny Pickett, he's a rock solid quarterback, but as a 4 or 5 year starter, there are things that about his game that makes you wonder, like, what can he bring to a team? Like, is he someone that's going to steady the ship, or is he someone that can take a team over the hump? And I think he's more so the former. I think he just steadies the ship. He's not a huge difference maker. Matt Corral has some alluring traits, has a quick release and can get the ball over the field, but played in a basic offense and he relied a lot on RPOs. Same thing with Sam Howell. Desmond Ritter, probably the quarterback that has run the most pro style type of concepts in his at quarterback at Cincinnati. And his leadership was lauded, but his accuracy is a big issue. He just is not completely accurate. And then obviously Carson Strong, his knee is a big concern. He's a intriguing quarterback. He has the arm strength and arm ability to get it everywhere, and played in that air raid system. But we know air raid doesn't always translate to the NFL. So with all these guys, there are clear weaknesses with them. Even Malik Willis included. He just, while he's amazing and he makes all these impressive plays and has the running ability, there are just times he is just so inaccurate. It's like, do you take a chance on that? So I think it's a little bit of both. You get a little bit of both with this quarterback class where there's going to be criticism just because I don't think there's going to be any immediate starters outside maybe Kenny Pickett and maybe Desmond Ritter. But I think there's a potential for these guys to pan out an NFL career and some of them be a career backup or an average starter. So I don't think, compared to other classes, this certainly doesn't match up. But I think there's some good to this class where a team isn't going to, there might be a few teams that wage their future on these quarterbacks, but I think as a general consensus, a lot of these teams won't be picking first round quarterbacks. So there's a good bit of them probably going to go round two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because one thing I can say is they all look like projects. Like they all look like guys that like outside of Pickett would probably have to redshirt a year. And I mean, even Pickett, prior to his breakout last year, Pickett was nothing special. Like no one was talking about Kenny Pickett as a draft prospect, and he bursts onto the scene this past year, and then it's like, wow, he showed that he's got that ability. But But anyway, yeah, just looking at it, I feel like those top five will definitely all be at least NFL backups, out there. At least they have that floor to where they'll, even if they don't really pan out as starters, they can at least be backups. I'm glad you mentioned, though, about Strong's knee because, I mean, the Strong, it's like, yeah, he's got strong potential, pardon the pun, but just, man, I wouldn't want any part of him because from what I've heard, it's a bone on bone knee condition, and that usually doesn't heal right. Where like his long term future, I mean, it's very cloudy, and to me, that's just not worth a pick in the first 3 rounds. I put him as a third round target because I feel like somebody's gonna swing for it and hope that knee heals right. But I don't like it. I personally would probably. I'd probably wait till the fifth if I was gonna do it, but he probably won't be there. It's just too risky in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of these quarterbacks are going to be somewhat of a risk because there's a good chance they don't pan out. But I mean, even if you select, you go back to last year and then some of those quarterbacks that went, obviously Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. We found out pretty quickly if they don't have stability around them, it's not going to be a pretty sight for a rookie quarterback. So even with a lot of these guys that aren't, at that level as some of those guys from last year, landing spot is everything. You got
Hmm.
to be in a good situation. So I think of the people that we see on your board, I think Malik Willis might be the only one that gets put in a pretty bad position where he's on a bad football team. And if you throw him out there with bad, just a bad team around him, it's not going to be a pretty sight. But a lot of these other guys, I think they have a chance to go to a playoff contender or a borderline average team where there's pieces in place, and if they are pushed to play, they won't be held out to dry completely.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because the Saints are obviously a potential destination. I'm hoping not. I mean, as a Saints fan, I don't want a quarterback, especially in the first round. I feel like we need to spend those picks on either actually both an offensive lineman and a wide receiver. But we'll get to that a little later as far as it. But bottom line is, though, it would be a good spot for a quarterback because if something would happen to Jameis again and you'd have to force the rookie to start. The Saints have good pieces, a great defense, and the same thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the other team that's might be targeting a quarterback. They picked 20th to where there's a chance Willis and Pickett will both be gone by the time they pick. But even if they wait till the second round and take a chance on Corral or Howell or Ritter, like I mean, the Steelers are just they always seem to have a solid foundation to where like Big Ben played as a rookie, I'm pretty sure, and they just always seem to be at least pretty steady over there. I can't ever remember a Steelers team being downright awful.
Yeah, they pride themselves on if they're not good, they're close to being good. So yeah, Steelers is clearly a big spot that a quarterback is going to be needed, and they're all over Malik Willis. Like I think if Willis were to fall outside the top 10, I would put a lot of money that the Steelers would find a way to trade up and get him. So I
Mm.
think if Willis doesn't go to like somebody like the Seahawks or the Panthers, I think the Steelers would be the likely candidate to trade up, or maybe another quarterback hungry team, that needs someone to be there and just makes sense. So I think Steelers clearly are quarterback hungry, and maybe somebody like the Titans may go with a
Yeah, the
Corral or Ritter,
Titans.
something like that.
Yeah, I say yeah, the Titans because Tannehill wasn't too impressive last year, and he could very well be on the hot seat, and if so, yeah, I could see him taking if one of the big two falls already. Yeah, Corral they pick like 26, so I mean I could maybe see Corral landing there because I don't see Corral going in the top half of the first. I think he's like a late first, early second round target because he's got ability, but he's again kind of a project. Pickett's the most ready made, I'd say, and Willis, yeah, definitely has the highest ceiling of this group. I'm kind of thinking that the Falcons take a chance on Willis because they've got Mariota in place for this year. You can have Mariota redshirt Willis, and hopefully by 2023, when the Falcons have a little more stability on their roster, Willis could be ready to start.
Yeah, Falcons is certainly that would be a nightmare scenario for the Saints at the very least, because you would just not like to have him in the division, because while he's still a project, what he can do with his running ability. I mean, we've seen as a Saints fan, Michael Vick and Cam Newton come through the
Yeah,
division.
yeah, he could be their like their
It
new
would be
Michael
something like that.
Vick. Yeah, 'cause they've had that statue Matt Ryan all those years. I think they're ready for some fresh blood over there.
For sure, but we'll see. I mean, the quarterback was class. I think we may get three at the most in the first round, but I can't imagine more than three would go off the board, because it just would not make sense to me
Right,
in this
right.
particular class at least.
Yeah, and then I think Howell and Ritter. Well, I think one of them is going to end up in Detroit because Detroit's got that 32nd pick from the Rams, and then the 34th pick, the second pick of the second round. I feel like with one of those two picks, they're probably going to take a shot on them and hope maybe they could push Jared Goff. I would think Goff could hold them off, but I think Ritter probably has a little higher ceiling. I mean, Howell has. I feel like Howell's like he's kind of like Mitchell Trubisky, from North Carolina. A guy that could be a very good backup, but as a starter, you're like, we're like, probably not. But Ritter's got a big arm. If he could fix his accuracy, I'm not trying to compare him to Josh Allen per se, but in a way, I am, because while he doesn't have that running ability like Josh Allen, he's big and he struggles with accuracy. But if he could get his accuracy down, I could see Ritter potentially being the steal of this class.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Ritter. I actually, I'm a little bit higher. I have him as my QB3 in this class, and I just think with him, like, there you can see a path for him to be a solid quarterback, because he just looks the part. He has the arm strength to make all the throws. He's played in a pro style offense. So there are things with him that I think are going to be very intriguing to teams, and that's why I like someone like Tennessee to grab him, because he is a little bit more athletic than Ryan Tannehill. I think he has a little bit more, throwing, be able to push the ball down the field. He's more willing to do so. And it just makes sense for that offense. They still have Derrick Henry, and obviously they added Robert Woods as well. Got AJ Brown still intact for now. Obviously, there have been rumors about him being traded. And I think Tennessee is going to go after a tight end or two, because they've just been lacking that since John O. Smith left. But I think Tennessee will be a good spot for him.
Yes, indeed. And then I threw Cole Kelly on there, a local boy. Went to high school here in Lafayette, my hometown. And I went to Turlings Catholic, and he's now an NFL draft prospect. His stock had plummeted as when he kind of struggled at Arkansas, and then he redeemed himself in his senior year at Southeastern, had a huge year, dominated in the 1AA there, and is now a potential draft pick. I think he's. I mean, I'm not saying he'll be an NFL starter, but I think he's definitely got potential to crack a roster. And hey, you never know what can happen from there. Any thoughts on him, Devin? You think he could be worth
Yeah,
a pick?
I got to watch him a few times. Watch him a bit in the spring, and then some in the fall as well. I think he's one of those late round guys that is probably going to be like a career backup, but maybe he gets his shot late in the season. With the if a team is already in the playoffs or they're already eliminated. And I think he has some arm ability, some touch on his throws down the field, and really operated that southeastern Louisiana offense at a high level, and obviously I believe a two-time winner of the FCS Heisman, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a one-time winner, but it's won a ton at Southeastern. Obviously, they were able to get that playoff win over Florida A&M. I remember watching that game specifically, and was impressed with what he was able to do and pick apart that defense. But I think he's certainly going to be like a 6th or 7th round pick. The team really takes him and see what he has, and what he can bring in another arm, a kind of a camp body as well, and see how he's able to fare against NFL competition, and maybe he could stick on a roster.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, if the Saints take a quarterback, man, wait to take the local kid, Cole Kelly. Hell, he might be able to beat out Ian Book.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting battle for sure. And I just didn't love Ian Book last year coming out,
No,
and I
not
didn't
at
love
all.
the
I
pick.
hated
So
that pick. I hated it. I didn't know much about him, but man, he did not impress me. I know it was kind of unfair to have to throw him in that Monday night game, but man, he looked like a complete deer in the headlights. Just did not look like he belonged. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, let's turn the page to running backs. I mean, we broke down quarterbacks pretty good there. Let's go on to running backs, and yeah, this class looks not a whole lot of guys that look to be the next superstar type thing. No Adrian Petersons in this class, I don't think, but they do have a lot of potential quality running backs that could very well be starters. And we'll start it off by talking about Breece Hall, who I'd say is the clear cut number one here. Can do a little bit of everything, has some receiving ability and an explosive runner, but just, I don't know, to me, just doesn't have quite the ceiling to be a first round pick. And we got Kenneth Walker, another one with a lot of potential, but didn't do a whole lot as a receiver in college. I guess we'll start off with the top, Devin, with those two. Your thoughts on Hall and Walker. Do you feel like they're guys that could be first round talents, or do you think they're pretty, you know, pretty much it gonna go in the second type thing?
yeah, I think they're probably going to go in the second. And if one were to go in the first round, I think it would probably be Brees Hall, and I see somewhere like Buffalo being a good spot for him if they want to go that route. But I think a lot of these guys are going to be second and third round picks. That's where the value is for running backs, and
Yeah,
it's unfortunate because running backs are still a big part of an offense, but a lot of teams have gone to the rotational style of play versus kind of running someone into the ground. So Derrick Henry is a example, kind of an outlier along with Najee Harris, but you see how big they are in kind of the freak athletes they are. So it makes a lot of sense. But
yeah,
a lot of
Jonathan
these guys
Taylor.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, Jonathan Taylor. I was just kind of,
Yeah,
go, yeah,
Jonathan
go ahead.
Taylor too. But a lot of these guys are going to be rotational guys at the NFL level. But I don't have too much disagreement with your list. I do think Brian Robinson is being a bit underrated among people. Just ranking running backs
Yeah,
because
it seems like he slips through the cracks there. I mean, he's a Bama runner and did well in that lead role last year. I thought he looked good on film. I could see him maybe. I've got Walker ahead because a lot of this is where I think they're going to get drafted. But I mean, like personally, I'd almost prefer Robinson. The only one I think I'd rather over him is Brees because Brees did look impressive on film, I'd say.
yeah, for sure. I do like Kenneth Walker, and obviously I want to see more of his receiving profile, especially at the NFL level. I think that's what may hold him back a little bit and getting selected a little earlier than some of these other guys. But I mean, you go down the list, James Cook and Tyler Beatty are two guys that I think can be really valuable in the receiving downs on third down. So and I know you also bring a fantasy impact. Those are two guys I would probably draft in fantasy because I think they're two guys that are going to get you yards in a receiving game, along with assuming they get on the field as a rookie. But we know how teams, like I said, we know how teams like to rotate. But those are two guys I think could make an instant impact as opposed to some of these other guys because someone like a Kenneth Walker or like a Brian Robinson, or you go down and look Damian Pierce. A lot of those guys are more power backs and thrive on getting more and more carries. But guys like Brees Hall, James Cook, Zamir White, Tyler Beatty, they have shared carries in the backfield with other players, and they understand not Brees Hall so much, but the latter three
Yeah,
have
Georgia guys.
share
Yeah.
carries and a backfield understand, that they won't get as many opportunities to take over a game. But I think those three in particular will be an interesting projection to the NFL. And then someone a little bit further down your list, Pierre Strong Jr. is a big favorite of mine. I really like what
Yeah,
he
yeah, he
brings.
could be really good from South Dakota State.
Yep. He's someone I like a lot, and I think it could make an instant impact and be like an Elijah Mitchell, and
Right, right.
go in a day three and get carries as a rookie.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, my Region Cajun. I had a class with Elijah Mitchell. Funny to think
Yeah,
now he's a star running back for the freaking
yeah, he was
49ers,
a top
man.
10 running back for me last year,
Yeah,
when
man, it was
everyone
a
was kind of
he
fading him.
exceeded my
So I'm
expectations.
a big fan.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, he's a real humble guy. Always was cool with. Well, actually, I had him when it was a pandemic. Short. It was my last semester, short about a pandemic. I had a class with him. But yeah, he seemed very cool there, and is of course a stud on the field. But yeah, back to these rookies here. I guess the one that was kind of intriguing to me, but his stock's fallen a lot, being that he could be that three down back is Isaiah Spiller from A&M. I mean, I feel like he looked pretty good, but his measurables weren't too good. Like he was a little slow with the 40 and all that. Do you think that's gonna hurt him at the NFL level, or do you think he's with having that every down skill set that he could still be a quality back at the pro level?
Yeah. I think he's still gonna be a quality back. I think his vision is probably one of the best in the class, and his ability to find those cutback lanes and press the line of scrimmage and able to break tackles in the open field. And we've seen running backs like him come in the league and still do just fine. You don't have to have the game breaking speed. To be an effective back, and I do think he's going to be in an offense that does a running back by committee approach, and I think he's someone, if he gets the hot hand, you let him roll, and I think it could be valuable, especially on a rookie deal. A lot of these guys are. It's going to be interesting for their second contracts how things kind of negotiate, because the way they're going now, they're taking significantly less unless you were a top of the line running back. So we'll see how these running backs pan out over the course of their career. But I think a lot of them could be part of a rotational backfield and kind of play it by committee.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm thinking with the guys near the bottom there. Like Kyron Williams projects could be a good third round back there. Rashod White could. I think Rashod White is a good. I feel like he could have a pretty good every down skill set potentially. It's just, I mean, he doesn't have that. I mean, he's not the explosive guy like Brees Hall, but I kind of like him there as a guy. I feel like the Saints could. I keep going back to the Saints. I mean, that's I like to. I keep up with him more than anyone, being as my team and we're in the NOLA area. It's just I think he could be a good fit there to potentially carry some of the load while Alvin Kamara's hopefully the suspension not too bad, but he's going to get suspended almost certainly. Like a Saints going to need to add some more running backs, and he could potentially be a guy there, as well as the guy from leaving with the FIU, Devontae Price.
Yeah, he's real solid, and I think he's going to be one of those guys that fit in an outside zone scheme, like the 49ers run, or Tennessee or Atlanta. So I could see him going to a team like that and being able to really provide some interesting production. Has pretty good speed profile and pretty good film at FIU, despite them not being a great football team overall. So he's someone that intrigues me. Probably I would guess he probably goes 6th, 7th round, just because I think where he played at, and some of the struggles he had this year. Kind of a production just based on his situation. But I think 6th, 7th round would be an ideal spot for him.
Yes, indeed. Yep. And then so yeah, I mean overall, yeah, this class looks pretty solid, I'd say. And then as far as like the Georgia backs, we'll close out with them. We haven't talked too much about them yet. The Zamir White and James Cook. Zamir White was more the big back. James Cook was more the complement. But I feel like James Cook might have more upside, being that he's got the good genes. We know that being Dalvin Cook's little brother, and then he can catch. And I know he's a little on the small side, but I mean Dalvin's not like the biggest guy, but he's able to carry a big workload. But he has been a little injury prone, so I don't think teams will want to throw James in as like a true every down back right away. But I'm thinking he's probably got the higher ceiling. But what are your thoughts here? Who looked better to you on film out of those two?
Yeah, I think I like James Cook a little bit more. I just think with him, you see, kind of the receiving ability and just being able to play all three downs. I think that's extremely valuable for an NFL team. And I think his running ability is a little bit underrated. He had a couple
Yep.
big runs against Alabama in the national championship, as well as in the SEC title game, and you can clearly see the speed he has in the open field too. So I think with James Cook, you get a three down complimentary back who can also pass protect and do a little bit of everything. You can split him out. You could almost use him like an Alvin Kamara type of role, where he can be matched up against linebackers and whatnot. So I think the third round is a sweet spot for him. And I can see someone like the Denver Broncos or a team like that select him and really
Ooh.
start to use him not only as a true running back, but use him as a extra slot receiver and get those desired matchups as well.
Yeah, man, that'd be a great real life fit. It would kind of suck for fantasy because Javonte Williams is getting all the hype right now, and if he bring James Cook in, it'd be kind of like, damn, it kind of hurt. They kind of cancel each other out. Although with Nathaniel Hackett going over there now, they ran the two back system with Green Bay with Jones and AJ Dillon, and they both did well. So it could be enough to go around.
Yeah, that's what I was envisioning with that. Obviously Williams, the bruiser and main back, but then you bring in James
Yeah,
Cook as a change of pace guy.
yeah, kind of like in college with Williams. I mean, he shouldered a pretty big load, but he did have Michael Carter there with him as a compliment. And last year he had Melvin Gordon. So yeah, he's kind of thrived as being like the leader of a committee backfield.
For sure. I mean, I think with Williams, you want to be able to conserve him a little bit because I think you obviously want to unleash him, but also injury risk, and you don't want to have to do what the Baltimore Ravens had to do last year, bring basically running backs off the
Oh
street and
yeah, yeah, that was a
trying to
disaster.
continue that run game.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's not ideal. Yeah, they might Melvin Gordon might be ending up there, but anyway, let's turn the page to wide receivers here. This wide receiver class, man, so intriguing. It seems like every year the receiver classes get better and better, and this year's looks really nice at the top with five guys that are pretty much locks to go in the first round, and a few others that could also sneak up in there. It's just man, I'm intrigued by pretty much all of these guys. They've all got unique skill sets, and that are going to really translate well to the NFL level. I feel like I feel bad for the DBs, man. These receivers they just seem like they always come up with something new where they just have with the speed, the size, the athleticism, route running. It's just I'm impressed with this group, man. At the top, we'll start with those top five there: Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Chris Olave, Jamison Williams, Traylon Burks. To me, they all looked the part. I mean, the Jamison has some red flags coming off a torn ACL. Burks had a slow 40 time, but I mean, in the big picture, they're still really good. And those top three all look amazing. So who do you like here, Devin? I'm sure you've kind of like all of them to a degree, but I guess which ones really stand out to you as far as like these guys are going to be the elite WR ones at the NFL level?
Yeah, this one's a tough one because I can see all five of those guys being, game breakers from day one. I
Hmm.
think for me, they're all separated by just a few points. Like I think 2 or 3 points between all five of them. That's just how close they grade it for me, and just how good this class is. It's one of the deeper classes we've seen because as you see, you got 15, 16 deep. Honestly, you could go 20, 25 deep because there's just so many guys that are going to be able to make impact from day one. So for me, I think with I guess the couple that stand out, Garrett Wilson, obviously, just with his fluid route running and just ability to create space and move in small areas. I think that's just very intriguing and kind of reminds me of Stephon Diggs, coming out, and he obviously was I think a fourth or fifth round pick, but Wilson's obviously going to be first round, maybe the first one off the board. Jameson Williams, I think he has the best game breaking speed of any receiver in this class, just because he can take a simple slant or curl route and take it 60, 70 yards down the field and score. And obviously the ACL is concerning, but we've seen players come back from ACL injuries. It's pretty routine now. And I think he'll be just fine in terms of, getting back in time for camp and playing his rookie season. And then the other one that stands out to me is Treylon Burks, because I think with him, you have to have a plan with him, and you have to use him all over the field. I think his route running still has a little bit of ways to go, but there are flashes of high level route running from him. And then after the catch, he's probably the best with the ball in his hands after the catch outside Jameson Williams. He's able to break tackles. He plays almost like a running back, and it makes sense why a lot of people compare him to Deebo Samuel, because he has that ability to shrug off defenders and whatnot. So he's a very interesting player and whatnot, and I think he's going to make a team really, really happy. And all these guys will. Chris Olave hasn't really gotten the attention he deserves, but his route running and speed and just ability to get behind defenders is great. And then obviously Drake London, just a big receiver. Reminds me a lot of Brandon Marshall coming out, just go up and snag the ball, find ways to get open, and then with the ball in his hands, he also is dangerous. So you got a lot of guys here with different skill sets, but it's certainly one of the more deep classes we've seen.
Right, yeah, because it's got those guys at the top, and then in the depth, we got a lot of names that we'll get to in a little bit here. I just wanted to say a little more about the top group with Drake London. Man, just looks so dominant on film. The injuries are a tad concerning, because he missed a lot of games in college. But I think if he could stay healthy, he's definitely got the highest ceiling here. Wilson, I have here 1, because I'm ranking this based off more like where I think they're going to get drafted. Like if it was me personally ranking them, I'd probably have Olave at number 1. I think Chris Olave is complete. He checks all the boxes for me: route running, speed, hands, all the stuff you look for in a receiver. He's got it, and he has that nose for the end zone. Wilson, probably a little more, I guess, precise as far as his stuff, and real shifty too. Like they're both. I mean, those Ohio State guys, incredible, and that's why. Speaking of Jameson Williams, that's why I'm a tad concerned about him. Not that he was, Ohio State's amazing as far as receivers, but I'm a tad concerned that while Jameson Williams was with Ohio State, that he was kind of buried on the depth chart. Obviously, he showed what he could do at Alabama, and they kind of made the Ohio State coaches look silly at the end of the day. But still, though, it's a little concerning to me that it took him. It was kind of like the Kenny Pickett thing early in his career, and no one really knew much about him. And he has this huge senior year heading into the draft, or he may have been a junior, I'm not sure. But yeah, he just another thing I'm a little concerned with him is his route tree. From his film that I saw, it was all go routes basically. It didn't do much else outside that. I'm sure a team could get him to do more than just that, kind of like the Chiefs recently when they traded him out. But Tyreek Hill this year did a little more than just the go routes, as they forced him to with putting the 2 safeties back there deep. But anyway, yeah, Jameson, I get, and I love Burks. I think Burks is getting too much criticism over the 40 time thing. I still think Burks is going to be nice. He's a big enough guy to where even if he's not getting the best separation, he'll be able to go up and get those 50-50 balls. But yeah, Jameson, though, I'd be good with all these of the Saints, but man, the Jameson would be, I'd be a little bit frustrated if they took Jameson, because one, it's basically gonna have to be a redshirt year for him, and then I don't know, man. Those guys, those deep ball guys like that, a lot of times don't pan out, and you go back. Look at the Raiders, ones like Darius Hayward Bay, Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs, of course, had the in jail now. I don't want to get into all that, but just the kind of like, to me, it's just those deep ball guys are very risky. So I'd probably rather those other 4 over Jameson.
Yeah, the thing with Jameson Williams for me is He's actually my receiver five out of this group. Is that while I think he is going to be, successful being a deep threat, I just worry about physicality wise. How is he going to
Yep.
handle that?
Yep.
Against
100%.
Florida, he got a little bit manhandled. Georgia, not so much because I think they were a little worried about his speed. But against Florida, that was one of the biggest concerns with me. Even Mississippi State, to some degree, they were able to you know get hands on him and really move him off the line of scrimmage. But as opposed to Devontae Smith, who people had concerns about his size, I worry more so about Williams compared to Smith because Smith was a professional route runner. I mean,
Yeah,
he
it's
was
kind of like a
able to
Garrett
get open.
Wilson.
But with Williams, I don't think his route running is as precise, and I just see an overall player that really relies on his speed to get open and create separation in the air. But I think there's still some work that needs to be done for him to be a little bit more of a crafty route runner.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, I think we let's move on now to the next group here. Jahan Dotson looked real good on film, a little undersized though. Christian Watkins, the opposite. Like I mean, well, not really the opposite. I mean, he looks good on film. It's just he went to a small school, and so there's a little concerns about his ability to translate to the NFL. I think it will. He's a big guy. There's 6'4" there, big frame, has speed. I think he's gonna be a guy that could sneak into the first. And George Pickens from Georgia battled a lot of injuries. Probably won't get into the first, but a very interesting name nonetheless. In a lot in the Wendell Robinson, a smaller guy that could make an impact. Sky Moore, intriguing there. Alec Pierce from Cincinnati. Calvin Austin, another real short dude from Memphis, but another one that's kind of like a little scat back type receiver that could really end up being nice in today's NFL. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a big 6'3", 6'4" guy to excel. And then John Mechie, the other Alabama guy coming off the ACL there. So I guess those second round guys, man, there's a lot of names to pick through here. To me, the ones that stand out the most, obviously, the ones that could go in the first, like Dotson, being that he looks so dominant at times, and then Watkins with his big frame. But all these guys could be really good. Any in particular that really stand out to you, Dev?
Yeah, for me, of that second group, there's a few that stand out to me. First, George Pickens, because I think he's someone that had some really really interesting flashes on film. Obviously, he kind of went viral for his big, one-handed ridiculous catch he made in practice as a freshman, and then play as a true freshman and true sophomore, really put up some really good numbers. He's I think you worry a little bit about him because is he that classic jump ball receiver that we've seen come out the last couple of years, or is he someone that can truly create separation? That's what you kind of worry about, but the athletic ability is no question, and his ability to get behind the defense. He's made some athletic catches in his time as well at Georgia, but the quarterback play has just not been great for them. So do you think he's underutilized? Maybe he was. And then obviously they only played a few games this year. He missed most of the season, but came back for the playoff games and the championship. So you worry about how is he going to hold up the NFL level? Is he going to be healthy? And then how is he going to handle the NFL physicality, and is he going to be able to create separation? But I think he's worth the swing on in the second round because he has high level athleticism. And then you look down the rest of the list. Calvin Austin is interesting because he was able to create separation at all phases. Just off the line of scrimmage. Throughout a route, and small but fast. We see in the NFL start to, appreciate these guys a little bit more than they used to. You don't have to be 6'5" or 6'4" to make it in the league anymore. So I think he's another interesting one. And then finally, David Bell. someone that's been kind of a hot topic because he tested poorly. He tested like similar to Jarvis Landry coming out of college, where ultra productive at the college level, makes a ton of plays, always finds a way to get open, even when he's the main focal point. But, just athletically wise, he doesn't match up to what you look for in a typical receiver. So, there's a lot of interesting things, with him. But I just think, he finds a way to make a roster, and turns out a pretty productive career despite him not having the best testing numbers. And then Alec Pierce is someone that I think is a bit underrated too. Obviously, Desmond Ritter is the big name along with Ahmad Gardner, who we'll talk about later. But with him, I think he's going to be a real solid player at the NFL level, and just comes in and quietly, puts together a solid rookie season. We're going to look back and wonder why he didn't get selected earlier. So I think he's another one to watch too.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of intriguing names here. Yeah, Bell was a guy that I'm glad I put him because I just so many people have just written him off, but when really productive, and I feel like sometimes people overreact to the measurables. Like it's like they kind of ignore the film and just look all at the measurables. But I mean, Bell looked. I mean, he put up numbers, looked the part on film. Like he's somebody that could. While he probably won't be that number one that some were thinking he could be, I still think he could be kind of like, like Jarvis Landry, a rock solid number two type thing.
Yeah, I think with a lot of these guys, pretty much after five, I think a lot of these guys are going to be like wide receiver twos or threes, where they're not going to be asked to, in my opinion, at the very least, to be the main guy early on. But I
Mm-hmm.
think they can be second and third solid pieces, and we really you can go through, like I said, 20 deep, and find guys like that where third, second, third, and fourth receiver potential, and just goes to show you that this class is booming with receivers, and if you need one, you can get one pretty much in any round.
Yeah, definitely. And then Mechie coming off injury, I feel like he's getting a little undervalued here. I mean, Jameson, of course, the number one there at Bama, but his stock hadn't fallen too much. Where Mechie's stock's kind of fallen, but I think if you can afford to give him that redshirt year, Mechie's a guy that could. I mean, he fits that WR2 mold and could potentially be something more.
Yeah, I certainly agree. It's we'll see what happens, especially with Mechie. The injury I think is concerning as well. Both Alabama receivers obviously going down with injuries, but I think Mechie is going to be, he could be a very very good wide receiver too, like high level wide receiver too. So I'm interested to see kind of where he goes, or where he ends up falling to. But certainly I think if he's healthy, he's pushing first round.
Yep, yep. And before we move on to tight ends, a couple other interesting names of Jalen Tolbert from South Al and Justin Ross from Clemson. Any thoughts on them?
Yeah, Tolbert for me, vertical threat, just real nice raw ability. I just wonder also physicality wise, played at South Alabama, has some tremendous catches against Tennessee, but overall struggled with drops. And then Justin Ross, similar to Pickens, injury riddled last couple years of college. The back injury was obviously scary for him, but him getting back on the field and showing some ability was nice. But I think for right now, I'd probably cap his ceiling as a receiver three, maybe a receiver two eventually. I just think he's still kind of getting comfortable back with playing football, and just trying to readjust to the game, and that raw athletic ability is there for him still, but I think he showed a little stiffness in his route running, and just didn't look as fluid as he did pre-injury. Had an amazing catch as a freshman back in that national title game against Alabama, with Trevor Lawrence as quarterback. So
Yeah.
he certainly has ability, but with him it's about continue to develop, and trying to get to that point where he's back feeling comfortable with his pre-injury form.
Yes, indeed. Let's move on now to the tight end position, in which we don't really have any first round talent this year, but we've got a lot of guys that should go on day two. Some interesting names here. You got, because it's all with the guys that have seen their stocks go up a lot lately. Trey McBride there from Colorado State, and Greg, how do they say it? Dulcich from UCLA.
Yeah,
Dulcich,
Dosage.
Dulcich. Okay, yeah, his stock's really gone up recently. He was a guy that was gonna be like a borderline day three pick. Now he's zoomed up into the second, third round territory there. And then one that's fallen a bunch, Jalen Wademeyer from A&M had a extremely slow 40 time, I believe over 5. It was, yeah, that was rough. But a guy that was productive in college, actually, like David Bell, although, man, that's really concerning to be that slow for NFL tight end. But anyway, just looking at me, Isaiah Likely from Coastal, another intriguing name. So I guess to start, Dev, I haven't watched too much film on these guys, if I'm being real, just because the tight ends, they do a lot of blocking too. I need to kind of check their receiving film. I guess that's before we talk about specifics. Like when you evaluate tight ends, like how much do you like balance out like receiving ability and blocking?
Well, I think you have to figure out what type of tight end they're going to be to really understand, how to watch them. And for me, I think really on that list, there's only going to be two or three like true, in line, hand in the dirt type of tight ends that you use in a down and down blocking basis. Like McBride is like the traditional guy. Charlie
Mhm.
Kolar traditional as well. Jeremy Rucker has shown some ability to be a traditional guy. Kate Odden, same thing. Dosage, I like him, a bit in the trenches, but I think he might be a flex tight end or someone you put in motion or H back type. So a
Yeah.
lot of these guys, you kind of have to break it up into, okay, are they going to be a traditional tight end, or are they going to be someone like a John Smith, or are they going to be someone like a George Kittle, or someone like that? So I kind of envision that, or they're going to be like an Evan Ingram. So
Yeah.
for me, I think likely, as well as Jelani Woods, I think they're going to be more of the Evan Ingram type, where they are flexed out a ton, that where they are used in motion and kind of used as a vertical threat. I think those guys just make the most sense with that. McBride, Kolar, more the traditional inline guys. I think Kate Odden, Jeremy Rucker can play a little bit of both the H-back and inline duties. Same thing with Dosage. But for me, I just try to break it down in kind of those sections because,
Yeah.
they all do a little bit, or they're utilized differently, and some of them just it would make sense to put them in line when they have the such receiving upside. So I think, with the tight ends, and it's one of my favorite ones to evaluate, just because so many different types of tight ends exist. I think it's just so interesting, but a lot of these guys, they are going to be utilized in different ways. So I think it's kind of important to understand, are they going to be used as a traditional guy, or are they going to be used kind of all over the field? So I think for a good majority of these guys, they're not going to be a traditional, tight end one. You take care of all the blocking responsibilities and receiving. I think really McBride and Charlie Kolar are going to be the only guys that are going to be asked to do that a ton.
Yeah, no George Kittles here, but I mean he wouldn't have high of a pick or like Kelsey, So I mean some of these guys could emerge. Yeah, McBride, I'd say definitely has the best ability to be an every down tight end. But I noticed the one, Devin, when you were going over all that, the one that just didn't really fit any of the molds was Watermeyer, and he was for a while being talked up as the top tight end, but I mean with the slow 40 and just, I don't know. Do you think he's heard some people say he might just straight up go undrafted? Do you feel like he's just a guy that's doesn't really do anything well enough to be a NFL caliber tight end?
Yeah, I think he hurt himself by deciding to run, especially if he knew he was not going to run a top time, and I think that was a mistake on his part, because you just let the NFL assume how fast you are, and then
Yeah.
just I think some players, they feel like they have to test. When I think with Watermeyer, it's probably going to be a day 3 pick comfortably before he tested, just because I thought his 2021 film wasn't as promising as 2020 going into the season. But I think with Watermeyer testing so poorly, teams want freak tight ends. You need guys that can truly stretch the field. And, even in his game, a lot of his catches were contested. And that's fine to be like that, but you're not going to be a high caliber pick playing like that, if that makes sense. So I think for him, that really hurt him. And he's okay in the trenches and blocking, but I don't know where you play the guy. That's the only problem is like, where do you play him? Because he's not a traditional tight end. He's
Yeah, he
not
sounds
really
like kind of
a
a jack of all trades, master of none type. So yeah, he might have to kind of carve out a niche there, kind of focus on one thing or the other, maybe.
yeah. I mean, if he's not productive once you bring him in camp, I mean, I could very well see him bouncing around a few different teams before he truly lands. So I'm definitely worried about his stock. I think a team may go with him sixth, seventh round, but that's not even a guarantee at this point, just depending on how the board falls and how good this receiver class is and some of these other skill positions. So he's in a tough spot right now for sure.
Yep, yep. And then yeah, a lot of interesting names here. The one I've added, I know he's a guy that normally doesn't get mocked in the fourth round range, but man, Jelani Woods as a receiver, I think could really be something special. And shout out to Pigskin Paul Guamet from the Great Blue North Draft Report last Saturday on the Sports Note brought up Jelani Woods has arguably the most upside out of any tight end, and had to be because of it's his receiving ability is potentially amazing there, and so and he's got the big frame, of course. Do you think he's the guy that's got that ceiling to be a special receiving tight end?
Yeah, and you're talking about Jelani Woods, correct?
Yeah, yeah, from Virginia. Yeah.
Yeah, with him, I think I think he can certainly be special in terms of like he's gonna be kind of I think it's going to take a while for him to truly develop because, coming out of or coming
Mm-hmm.
into college, he was a quarterback and transferred
Oh,
to
okay.
being
Yeah,
a tight
yeah,
end.
yeah. It'd be a project then. Yeah.
Yeah, so with him, he played at Oklahoma State for 3 4 years before he transferred to Virginia. Had the big season
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
2021. So with him, I think it's a little bit of a harder question because I think he has a unique skill set that we haven't seen. I don't think ever. He's like the most athletic tight end like coming to NFL that we've ever seen. Just with his size, like you don't see a guy 6'7", 259 run as fast as he did in the combine and in the shuttles. Only thing I worry about with him is just the route running wise. He's a little stiff moving laterally, and he's going to be a great seam type of tight end, someone down the middle of the field that you can target. But I didn't see great ability to make those contested catch, nor did I see great ability to create a ton of separation, like on outbreaking routes and stuff. So with him, I think he's going to be a bit of a project. I think try to gain some more of that flexibility that I think he possesses and get him comfortable with a specific role. But I like him more as a tight end too, just because I think I don't want the I don't think that all the pressure should be on him to carry that huge load as a tight end one. I just like him better, in a 2 point stance or just as a true receiver coming out of his stance because I think coming out of the tight end stance, he's a little bit slower off the ball, but once he gets rolling, he can truly threaten defenses. I think he's an interesting guy that team sees the athleticism with and brings him in the building, and you find a way to get him on the field.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I might have to swap him and Watermeyer there because with that much upside, I have a feeling he's gonna go at least in the fourth round, probably the third. But yeah, and then Isaiah Likely, as far as from a fantasy perspective, I'd probably say Likely's will be that probably either him or Dulcich, the top target for those looking to. I know rookie tight ends generally don't make an impact. I mean, look at last year. I mean, Kyle Pitts. I mean, he was a freak, but even Pat Fryermuth made a pretty good impact as a rookie. So I feel like if Likely lands in the good spot, then he could definitely be a sleeper pick here as in year one.
Yeah, I think you use him, and I see a Jonnu Smith type of role for him at the NFL level because he kind of did that at Coastal, where he was
Yeah,
used kind of as an H back. They threw it to him on those short flat routes and those quick quick hitters that a lot of teams have started to run for, like Travis Kelsey, like the Chiefs. Like to do play action and then just dump it off to Kelsey and let him rumble. So I could see likely getting some good production as a rookie and be a part of an offense that uses him a little bit all over the field.
right on, right on. All right. So we got through the skill positions. That was good to break all that down. Have a little more knowledge of what these guys do and where they'll be good fits for fantasy. Yeah, shoot, we might have to do a whole nother episode breaking that down. I have a column in the works breaking down where it'll be good, the most ideal fits for all these guys. But yeah, we're running a little short on time here, so let's now, before we sign off, get into the trenches a little bit and then defense. We'll start off though with the trenches, the O linemen, and kind of get into them a little bit. And Devin, before we start, I'll be real with you. I don't really watch O lineman film because I don't really know what to look for. I don't. Were you an O lineman, man, when you played, or I know you're? But what
Yeah, so
position
I
you
played.
play?
Yeah, I played tight end, so I
Oh,
was
you
at a
play
lot
tight
of
end.
offensive
Okay,
line meetings,
okay,
in
okay.
college and whatnot. So,
That's what's up. What do you look for when watching these guys?
yeah, so first you look for just overall play style. Like, are they, like a bully in the trenches? Are they someone that, thrives in the run game? How do their feet look? Or, when they're firing off the ball, how quick do they get into their pass sets? And then when they're running, or, do they keep a really good base? I think that's the most important thing for them. Like, how do they play? Like, do they have good pad level? How do their feet move? Do they keep their feet wide or close together? Because alignment with his feet close together is it's not a good look. Most of the time they get knocked over or get knocked back. So playing with a good base and keeping those like feet shoulder width apart and staying square, and not turning their body. I kind of look for all those things, and then how quick do their hands move or how quick do they get their hands on defensive tackles or defensive ends. So it's kind of what I look for, especially at tackle. You got to have that speed to deal with some of these freak athletes coming off the edge. So that's kind of what I look for. Athleticism wise, are they able to redirect? When defensive ends or using counter moves or spinning or whatnot. So you kind of look for all those different things in terms of scouting offensive line and seeing, how efficient they are moving because they only have a couple seconds to get the block done or to protect the quarterback before, the defense swarms them. So you got to be able to move quickly in a short amount of time and be pretty strong and intelligent because you got to understand or anticipate, like blitz is coming or be able to identify, like stunts, like, just all types of things like that. So, kind of breaking it down to a more concise, way how I evaluate them. One, how do they move? Essentially, do they move? Does it take them a while to get to the spot, or do they move quickly? Two, how are their hands and feet working? Are they working in conjunction, and are they, or are they like kind of like all over the place? And then three, how do they finish plays? Are they someone that gets their block and just finishes? Like drives their man to the ground, or are they one of those players that just gets the block done and call it a day? So that third one's more the mentality, but I think those are like three good starting points to watching linemen.
Yes, indeed. So out of these guys here, you got four guys that looks like are going to be locks for the first round there, and Evan Neal, Ike Ekonwu, Charles Cross, and Trevor Penning. So what are your thoughts on, I guess, the top of the class there? Do you feel like all those guys are guys that are worth high first rounders?
Yeah, the top three are top 10 players on my board. I just think they're three of the more impressive offensive linemen really in this class, and I think it just makes sense why they are that high, or why they are just at that position. Evan Neal is a freak. I mean, dude's like 6'6", 350, and we saw him at the combine. He looks like he's 275, and it just doesn't make sense, And so with him, there's a ton of athletic ability. He's just massive, athletic, does a little bit of everything. Struggled at times, with just keeping this balance overall, especially 2021, he did a better job being balanced, but I just think he had some issues with getting, too wide on certain things, or keeping his feet too close, and getting knocked over. But, he's a big guy, moves people in the run game. And honestly, any of these three guys, I think I would not be mad if someone had them as their tackle one, because they all bring something different. I think Charles Cross is the best pass protector of the three, because he's athletic, quick, fast. Knows how to counter moves from defensive linemen, and just overall brings a consistency from a pass protection standpoint. Akim McQuanu is the best run blocker. He just erases people off the screen, drives them 30, 40 yards down the field. But Evan Neal, I think, is the best overall, where he may not be the best pass protector or the best run blocker, but he combines both, and there's enough in both categories where he's going to be, immediately starting. I think all these guys are going to start right away. But I think with Neal, he just is the better overall player, and projects best right now, because there are some issues with Ikem Ekwonu in his pass protection. Not any of that things that can't get fixed, but things that I think are going to be something he struggles with early, which is handling speed rushers, and handling um, their second or third moves. I think he could do that a little bit better. And then with Cross, run blocking is a big thing with him. He's a suitable run blocker, but there are times he gets beat inside, or just overall struggles to hit his landmarks in the run game. But those three guys, I think, are undoubtedly the top three linemen. And then with Trevor Penning at 4, plays really nasty. I think that appeals to a lot of NFL teams. He likes to get in people's faces, and then kind of assert himself throughout a game, or at the Senior Bowl, at practices. But there's still some technical things with him that need to be fixed up. I think he's going to be one of those guys that maybe struggles early on, but if he can figure out the mental side of things, I think he'll be okay. And then Bernard Ryman at 5. I think he's a bit more of a project, although he's going to be 24, 25 years old, I think, as a rookie. But I think the athleticism is the thing that stands out with him, and just how fast he can recover. I think that kind of makes him a lauded prospect in people's eyes.
Mm-hmm. And then Tyler Smith from Tulsa is a guy that wasn't really in the spotlight early in the process, and has really risen up boards there. And then some guys below him pretty intriguing. Nick, I think, how's he say his last name there? Petit Frere. I'm
Yeah,
not. Oh, okay.
Petit Frere.
Petit Frere. Okay, yeah. I don't want to butcher these names, because I'm not. I try and watch college some, but I'm so in with the pros that I probably don't watch as much college football as I'd like to. But anyway, they have some more names on there. And Max Mitchell's on there from Raging Cajuns, a guy that's risen up boards as well. Any guys in the outside of the top guys there that really impress you, Dev?
Yeah, kind of in that back half, I think Max Mitchell is someone I think that probably ends up going round four, but he brings a lot of experience to the position. Just a rock solid player that can be thrown in the starting lineup. I think early on, and he'll do just fine. And maybe he moves to guard, maybe he stays at tackle at the NFL level. We'll see how a team utilizes him, but I think he's rock solid in both the pass and run game, and someone that should project well to the NFL level. And the Raging Cajun have produced a few guys over the last couple of years. Robert Hunt a couple of years ago, and then
Yeah,
last
and
year it was
Kevin Dotson.
yep Dotson as well. So they have an eye for talent with the Raging Cajun, and their offensive
Coach
lineman
Billy
has a good
Napier
track
now
record.
at Florida.
Yep,
Wish we could
yep.
have kept him, but yeah, going to obviously had greener pastures there, so can't blame him. but
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and expect Florida offensive linemen to probably, over the next couple of years start to develop some really good talent there, and send some guys to the league that can make some noise.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, we're running a little short on time here, so let's move on to the interior linemen there. Tyler Linderbaum, Zion Johnson, Kenyon Green, highlighting the list as guys that could go in the first round. So, but none that look like super high pick locks. Like some years, a couple guards sneak into the early part of first round, but this year it's not looking too likely that that's going to happen. Who are the interior linemen here do you really like as far as being guys that are first rounders with potential for more?
Yeah, I like Zion Johnson probably the most on the list. I think Linderbaum, I think he's great, and I think he's going to be like a Creed Humphrey, where the NFL doesn't take him as high as he should go, but he's still going to play really well immediately. But Zion Johnson, I think, has a chance to be the best interior offensive lineman in this draft, and I think he, just is really risen in the post draft process or pre draft process, I should say. And I really like him. He's a top 15 player on my board. I know guards are not a position or interior offensive lineman for that matter, or a position that people take high, and really haven't since Quentin Nelson was taken with the Colts. But I think he's going to be really good at the NFL level, and I really like what he brings to the table.
Yes, indeed. Any of the later guys that stand out to you there?
Yeah, Zach Tom is someone I've been telling people about for the last month or so. And, he played tackle at Wake Forest the last 2 years, but started at center his first 2 years. So it makes sense why he's being projected into the interior offensive line. But I really like his just fundamental. He's fundamentally sound, is a really solid pass protector in the run game. He moves people and can beat people to the spot. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Eric McCoy, where I think teams are going to get way more out of him coming into the league than they thought. And I think he can be, have that Eric McCoy type rise where he starts surprisingly as a center for an NFL team because he is just that good. So I think Zach Tom is the name to watch of that latter group.
Right on. So let's before we sign off here, let's take a look at defense. And we could have done a whole nother episode just on defense because they've got so many big names here. Probably even more. Might have more defensive players go in the first round than offense. Kind of last year was more offense, especially at the top. Or this year, the defensive players look like they're going to steal the show at least early on. Just with these defensive ends here, I mean Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Trayvon Walker, all guys that theoretically could go first overall. Look, I mean, Hutchinson, the betting favorite as of now, but been hearing rumblings that Walker, who's been soaring up boards recently, could potentially be it. And then we got some more guys below them that are first round talents there. Jermaine Johnson from Florida State, George Karlaftis from Purdue, and then Arnold from Penn State. Ebkeiti, I'm guessing he's how he says it, or you probably would know, Devin. He's that really good edge rusher from Penn State.
Yeah, Arnold Ebiketie.
Epicati,
He's
yeah.
really good. Really, I mean, the top 10 guys on this board, I think they could all push top 50, top 60 picks because the NFL, they need pass rushers in the worst way. They need more young guys that play on those rookie deals, but also bring a ton of value. And I think those top 10 in those in the top 10 do. And the one name for me that sticks out that I'm hoping he comes back fully healthy from his Achilles injury is David Ajabo,
Yeah.
because many people see the potential with him. I think he's one of uh, the highest, or has one of the highest ceilings in the draft class among edge rushers, because we saw flashes of dominance in Michigan. Obviously, played across from Aiden Hutchinson, and that helped. But he can be a very, very high level edge that if you pair him up with say someone like the Chiefs get him, I think he could really turn into a legitimate 10 to 12 sack guy. So Ajabo is the one that stands out on this list. I think the rankings are pretty similar with me in terms of where I have these guys stacked, but you can put in any type of combination. I think it will be okay because this edge class, similar to receiver class, extremely deep, but it really depends on what type of edge rusher you want and who you like out of the group. So certainly I see a lot of potential in that group.
Heavy with Thibodeau. I know there's some concerns about his effort potentially lacking there. When you watched him on film, did you notice any of that, or do you think that's like overblown and that he's a lock to be a top 3 pick?
Yeah, I think it's overblown. I don't know if he's a lock to be a top 3 pick. I do think I don't think it's completely smoked that he falls out like the top 5, but I doubt he gets outside like the top 6 or 7 because there's no way the Giants will pass on him twice. The Jets, if say that one of the top tackles or all three of the top tackles are gone by the time they get to the Jets pick. I just don't see those teams within the top
Yeah, their
5 picks
second pick. Yeah.
passing on them. So I think it's a lot of smoke there. I think the effort concerns are not there. They just were not prevalent. I think people were just reaching a little bit, and honestly, with kind of him being, kind of the outspoken guy, I feel like that's kind of vilified him a little bit. Then people trying to spin the narrative that maybe he doesn't care about his football as much. But I think with Thibodeau, you're going to get somebody that comes in immediately and makes an immediate impact.
Yep. And then Hutchinson, I mean, I don't think there's very much to say. I mean, he's a beast and has no real character concerns. He's looking like could be the next Watt brother type thing. So I would say the lock to go first unless Jacksonville really screws the pooch. But Walker, man, Walker's rise. I'm kind of surprised. I know he's more what they like the 3 technique, like a guy that can do it all, not necessarily just an edge rusher. So he might be slightly more complete, but I feel like his pass rushing upside just isn't there compared to Hutchinson and Thibodeau.
Yeah, there's a lot to unlock with Walker. He still is in that big development phase where Georgia really didn't ask him to get after the passer like that because they were so stacked among that defensive line. And obviously, we're going to talk about Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt next, but they were stacked, and he really didn't need to learn or really didn't have the need for him to come off the edge and be a true edge guy. But I think teams see the untapped athleticism and untapped potential with him. And that makes sense why he's in the discussion go number one. And I honestly I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they should, but I understand with him testing out of this world and just being an immediate run stopper at the very least. I definitely understand why people or teams gravitate towards taking him.
Yeah, kind of got a lot of similar traits to Cameron Jordan, I'd say, of a guy that can he's every down guy. A lot of times it's hard to find that with these so many guys that come in these specialized edge rushers. Where so it's looking like they're like Jermaine Johnson. I have him as a defensive end, but he's more like the 3-4 outside linebacker type. And then Karlaftis, probably more the traditional D end, as well as the Minnesota guy, Bora Mafi, where Arnold at Kitty's more the edge, another pure edge guy. So just a lot of intriguing names. I guess out of those four, like any one in particular stand out to you as like, man, this guy's like a can't miss to be up there. Should be up a little higher.
Yeah, I think Ebiketie and Mafe are interesting ones for different reasons. Mafe is the guy that could sneak in the back half of the first round. They're obviously those top five guys. I think they're locked. They're going to go first round without a doubt. But I think of the next few, I think you probably see Mafe uh, come off the board maybe in the late 20s, and I think the athleticism part once again is a big thing. You know, he's a freak athlete with some alluring traits and coming off the ability fast twitch guy. Probably going to be used in passing downs a lot. I think he still can improve as a run defender, but I think Mafe is interesting. But Ebiketie, I tell you what, he's one of the more complete defensive ends in this class. I think the run stopping ability still needs to improve. He needs to shed blocks better, but he is just a nuisance. You know, he gets in the backfield. You know, he can bully tackles, use that power he has, and just be disruptive. I mean, he tore up Ohio State. You know, and Nicholas Petit Ferrer, who we just talked about, he made his life very difficult in that game against Penn State. So. Ebiketie, someone I think can go off the board early in round two, and a team is going to get a player that can come in immediately and upgrade your defensive line.
Right on. Let's move on now to defensive tackles and Jordan Davis highlighting the list along with his teammate Devontae Wyatt. Recently, from what I've been reading, Davis is really like rising as far as Wyatt is tumbling. They're saying Wyatt now might not even be a first rounder, and they look like the two that would probably be first rounders here. Travis Jones from UConn, maybe, but then the rest of these guys probably more day two or day three guys. What I guess we'll start at the top with the Georgia guys. Do you prefer Davis over Wyatt, and do you feel like the Wyatt? Well, yeah, let's talk about them both. We'll start with Davis. Uh, do you feel like he's worth a top half of the first round pick?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's just not built from the same mold. I mean, we haven't seen a guy that big and athletic since maybe I don't know, Aaron Donald, maybe. I mean,
Ooh,
he just had some true freakish athleticism, and I understand he's probably not going to be a three down guy immediately, but what he brings on first and second down, I think you cannot miss on that type of guy. He's going to be, a big problem in the middle of a scheme. I would love to see him in a 3-4 where he just plays a true nose tackle. But he's shown some ability to play as a one shade and a three technique as well. So maybe he goes into a 4-3 defense and they use him all over the line. But I certainly think he deserves to be in the top half of the first round, and I think probably doesn't go past maybe pick 15. I think I would assume because what he has, you're probably not going to see in a defensive tackle for a couple years.
yeah, man, shoot. I'll tell you what, if he's there on the Saints pick, he will be tempting. There's no doubt about that. I'm thinking, no, he goes right now in my latest mock. I got him going 15 to Eagles with Fletcher Cox getting old. I feel like he'd be the perfect, new face of their defensive line once Fletcher Cox hangs it up.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to go with either Davis or Wyatt, whoever is still there when they pick, because I just think that's a glaring need they have, and you pair up one of those young guys with Fletcher Cox, even for a season, that could pay huge dividends and make them a elite run stopping defense.
Yeah, no doubt. And then speaking of Wyatt, are these concerns warranted? I mean, it seems like his stock's plummeting. Do you think he's still going to be a first rounder? He's been kind of the opposite of Davis. He's been going down the board here. But do you think that's just smoke, or we just do you just give me your overall thoughts?
Yeah, for me, I think for Wyatt, I certainly see his ability as a pass rusher and run stopper. I'm not as high on him as some other people. I think he's solid and he can be an immediate starter, but I don't see the ceiling like I see it with Jordan Davis. I think Davis, can be one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. That's the type of talent he has. I think Wyatt can be more so a Pro Bowler, someone that can make multiple Pro Bowls, but I don't think he's going to be extremely dominant early on. I think there's going to be some flash plays from him. I think Davis can be a big problem from day one. But Wyatt, I think he has some versatility. He's played along the defensive line. I think he can be a good value at the end of round two or end of round one or early round two. But I understand why, for him, I think and he tested really well as well. Only reason people don't talk about it is because of Jordan Davis. But I think with Wyatt, there's some things you still want to see him do a little bit better in terms of block shedding and just being able to affect the game more in the pass game. Same thing with Jordan Davis, but I think Wyatt, I think teams aren't as high on him, as some other people are. But I think he's still a like top 35, 40 talent in this draft class.
For sure. And before we move on from the defensive line, any other names there at tackle that could be impact players?
Yeah, I like Fedarian Mathis a lot from Alabama. He's one of my favorite defensive linemen in this class, and I think it's because he has the pass rush upside and ability to play, as a one shade or three technique. And I think his play strength needs to be a little bit better, and I think there are some other things in his game like handling double teams need to be a little bit better. But I think for him, I think there's a high upside with him there, and he can shoot gaps and show off some of that initial quickness. So I like Fedarian Mathis a lot, and I think he could be a good value in round three.
For sure. Yeah, them Alabama boys, they always seem to at least make some sort of an impact there. They some serious talent. But yeah, let's now go on to linebackers. I know we've got a couple Alabama guys there as well as Georgia Georgia guys. There are a lot of SEC talent, but the top guy among linebackers, we'll just combine inside and outside here for the sake of time. The top linebacker here, to Devin Lloyd, man. Devin Lloyd, a guy that is listed as outside, but probably more of like if it was a 3-4, I would think he'd be probably one of the two inside linebackers, but on 4-3, probably projects to be a strong side or weak side guy, but just looks like a guy that's pretty versatile and has a good overall skill set. The only linebacker here that appears to be a first round lock. So to kick it off, just what are your thoughts on Lloyd? Do you think he's a guy that's a legit first round talent?
Yeah, I think he ends up going in the first round, and he's my top rated linebacker. I just like the athleticism he has. He can move really well in space. Even in coverage drops. He had the pick six against Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Makes plays on the football in that respect, and I think he's more of a Anthony Barr type of player for the Minnesota Vikings, where you can use him in packages coming off the edge. He showed some of that ability at Utah, but use him on passing downs too. He's kind of the modern fit linebacker where you got to be able to defend the run, but also be able to drop back in coverage and affect passing lane. So I think he does a little bit of it all. I like him in the back half of the first round because that's just where linebackers value kind of starts. And I like him some of the better than some of the other linebackers that have gone in recent years, like Patrick Queen and Kenneth Murray and whatnot. Because I think those guys were good players, but I thought there were some holes in their game, and we're starting to see some of that at the NFL level. But I really like what Devin Lloyd brings. He brings a versatile skill set. You can move him pretty much along the entire kind of second level of the defense, and in a pinch, you can put him on tight ends as well as running backs because he's athletic enough to handle that. So that's what I like about Devin Lloyd, and I have him as one of my like top, I think 12 or 13 rate third rated players, but I understand that his value is probably not going to be till late round one.
Yep, yep. Yeah, thinking he might be another good fit for the Eagles, being that they could use a lot of upgrades throughout their defense. Or I mean, heck, even the Saints. I mean, he could maybe fit in, but the Saints tend to run mainly two linebacker sets, so might not really be a good fit there. But anyway, yeah, they got a few other names here, kind of intriguing. Nakobe Dean's a guy that's sneaking into the first round in some mocks, and he's a Georgia guy, right? Nakobe Dean.
Yep. Nakobe Dean, him and Lloyd, I think are kind of consensus top linebackers in this class. But kind of with both of them, they do a little bit of different things. Where Lloyd is like the more athletic and the more kind of guy that plays well in space. Dean, he plays well in the box. He's able to diagnose plays really quickly. Make plays on outside the box and being able to chase down running backs. And he's just incredibly smart. He knows where to be, gets into passing lanes and passing downs. And, a lot of people talk about his size, and that's obviously going to be a big thing that probably has him fall to the second round. But in terms of tape, he probably has the best pure linebacker tape in this class, and just is incredibly smart and incredibly just uh, athletic as well. And he didn't run his 40-yard dash, and it makes sense. He's probably not going to test what he looks like on film, but I think he certainly is going to be the if not the first linebacker at the board, the second or third, because he is just that good.
Right on, right on. Yep. So yeah, it could be some value to be had here, and then yeah, with Lloyd and Dean being that they won't cost you a high first round, be good values at the back end there, maybe even early second. But they have a few other names here. Christian Harris highlighting more the inside guys there, probably doesn't have enough upside to be first rounder. So out of the rest of these linebackers, who stands out to you?
Yeah, for me, I think that an interesting one has local ties is Damone Clark.
Oh yeah,
The
my
only
LSU
thing is
boy.
that
Yep,
he's going to be
yep.
missing his rookie season with injury. But
Mm,
from a pure tape perspective, you saw a linebacker grow up every single time
yeah,
he
yeah.
played. And from kind of that disaster at UCLA to the end of the season, he played like one of the best linebackers down the stretch of the season. I mean, he was calling out plays and making plays all over the field. I want to see more in coverage, but he certainly has some ability to be a great value pick. Probably goes on day 3 now because of the injury, but I think a team takes him. Understands it's going to be a red shirt year, but when he comes back in 2023, he's going to be a big focal point of a team's success and be a potential all pro level linebacker. I think he's of the linebackers we've seen come from LSU as of late, like the Patrick Queens and a Devin White. I think he's
Oh
somewhere
yeah,
in
Devon
between those
White. Yeah.
two in terms of ability and just how smart he is on the football field.
Yep, yep. Yep, man. I'm still mad at Devin White, man. He's the one that injured Jameis.
Yeah,
No, it
yeah,
wasn't intentional, but man, I tell you, I mean, he's good. He's really good, but boy, as a Saints fan, I cannot stand that guy.
yeah,
I know he's at the
he's
LSU
a
ties,
nuisance
but
for sure.
yeah, he's anyway, yeah. Well, I don't want to go off the rails too much. I could go on a whole show ranting about that, but yeah, let's go on to last but not least, DBs, and this is a stacked cornerback group, similar to how we were saying the receivers and edge rushers were really strong. Because man, there's a lot of corners here that look intriguing, especially at the top there with Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley Jr.
Yeah, it's a really great group. Top 3 guys you can probably top 4 guys, honestly, you can switch it around, and it really depends on what you want. I think the only thing with McDuffie is the short arms are going to hurt him a little bit in terms of where he gets drafted. But he has some great tape. Kyler Gordon too, his teammate at Washington. But Ahmad Garner and Derek Stingley. For me, it kind of reminds me. Ahmad Garner reminds me a lot of J.C. Horn coming out last year, where
Yeah.
people started to fall in love with that guy. That's you know straight man, press man, almost every play. Gets in the face of the receiver, long, athletic, able to make plays on the football, and just is very physical. So players like that have really started to take off over the last couple of years, and makes sense why he's at the top of the board. I saw Derek Stingley as my DB1. Obviously a local guy, but with him, I think it's because of the just the pure coverage skills. I think Sauce is a little bit better overall in terms of tackling, in terms of erasing his side of the field. I thought Derek Stingley, his 2019 film, probably the best DB film we ever seen from a freshman. But obviously the injuries over the last couple of years have hurt him a little bit. But I think he still goes top 10, top 15 without a question. But I think Gardner is the DB1 is probably going to go in the top 5. But Stingley is really good as well. Andrew Booth, he's probably one of the most athletic of any DB in his class, and has some intrigue. I think, he has high upside as a man cover corner, but I think him playing zone a ton at Clemson, and just sometimes getting his eyes caught in the backfield, or mistiming the a deep ball every now and then. I think makes sense why he's a little bit further down than some of these other guys. But the top 4 is a very intriguing group. I mean, even the top 5 with Kyer Elam, someone that was really the only DB to give Jameson Williams any trouble this year. He has some intrigue as well, but he also had his season cut short injury. So, those top 5 guys are all going to be possibly first round picks. The team is going to reach on the corner. We know that. Every year that kind of happens. So I would expect maybe a Kyler Gordon or Kyer Elam to maybe go in the back half of round 1.
Yeah, maybe to the Bengals, since they're a team that they address their O-line a lot this all season, but their secondary still leaves a lot to be desired. They definitely don't want to open with Eli Apple as your number 2 corner again.
Yeah, they're certainly going to answer that need, because they need a guy to come in and be an immediate contributor, because Super Bowl was rough for Eli Apple.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and no one from New Orleans was felt bad for him after those comments he made. But anyway, the Gardner, Sauce, and Stingley, man, I'm thinking they're probably not going to be too happy with this, because those New York teams aren't anywhere close to getting to the Super Bowl. But I see both of them going to New York. I'm thinking Sauce to the Jets and Stingley to the Giants there with James Bradbury wanting out. Both of them need secondary help desperately, and that's kind of the downside, like to being that elite prospect, kind of like Trevor Lawrence last year. Yeah, you're gonna get paid as a rookie, but you're gonna have to suffer on a bad team, at least for probably the first year or two, until they can rebuild.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, especially with Sauce possibly going to the Giants. I've even heard that he may go number 3 overall to the Texans. So
Oh wow.
he certainly has some
Yeah, I got a
intrigue.
McDuffie to the Texans.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, either one could end up with the Texans,
Yeah,
because
that's another
um,
rough rebuild.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we could get a run on corners midway through the first round, especially if a guy like Sauce goes 3. Do the Giants maybe take a swing at Stingley, maybe at 7, and then all of a sudden you see the draft kind of shift, because teams that
Oh
thought
yeah.
Stingley might be there at 9 or 10, he's off the board at 7. So then a guy like maybe Andrew Booth or Trent McDuffie go a little bit earlier than we expect. Kyrie Elam, I mean, maybe even get 6 DBs go in the first round, just because how teams selected in the first couple of picks.
Yep, and that's not even factoring in the safeties, which we'll get to in a little bit, headlined by Kyle Hamilton there. But yeah, before we get to safeties, I guess kind of just go through these later guys. Those top guys. It's pretty clear cut. The Vikings, another team picking high. That'll probably go corner, since Patrick Peterson's not getting any younger. But as far as these guys in that 7 to 12 range, who stands out to you the most?
Yeah, Roger McCreary from Auburn probably stands out to me the most of the people on the list, and then also Tariq Woolen. You know, 2 different players, but with McCreary, he's been rock solid SEC, multi-year starter, very, very solid. He did a really good job against the Alabama receivers, especially John Mechie. Obviously, Mechie scored the game-winning touchdown on him, but in terms of being able to make life difficult, he can make an opposing team's life difficult. Although he does have shorter arms like Trey McDuffie, so maybe they don't get selected as high. But I think McCreary can be a multi-year starter at the NFL level, and maybe they stick him in as a nickel and play him kind of like in the boundary and then the nickel for like a nickel based defense. So I think he's going to find a way to go on the field immediately in year one. And then Tyreek Woolen, athletic freak, super long arms. I think he's like 6'5", in the 200s in weight wise. He's still learning how to play the position. I think he's going to be a bit of a project where you probably don't put him out there immediately, but let him develop a little bit and continue to show off his athleticism. But his measurables are going to make teams probably pick him in round 2 or 3.
Yep. And then last but not least, safeties here. Kyle Hamilton, the only clear-cut first rounder. He's a guy that early on in the process, some people were thinking could be a top 5 pick, but it seemed like his stock's falling a tad now. A lot of times going in that 11 to 15 range. As of now, I got him at 12 to the Vikings. But where do you see Kyle Hamilton fitting in? He's a guy that looks really promising. Looks a stud on film, can play, kind of versatile, but a guy that some people are concerned doesn't have a true position at the NFL level. I would think with a guy that talented, they could figure something out for him. But what are your thoughts there? Do you think he goes top 10, or are those concerns going to cause him to slip?
I think ultimately he goes top 10. And if a team doesn't take him top 10, somebody's going to trade up for him, or maybe the Commanders just take him. But ultimately, I think he goes in the top 10. I understand some of the concerns in terms of, does he have a position? Is he someone you can play in one spot? But with the great players defensively, you don't hold them to one spot. I mean, we've seen Jamal Adams, how he's been utilized over the years. Jesse Bates for Cincinnati, he plays like a one high role, but he comes down into the box occasionally. So with safeties, you just put him in the best position to make plays. And I think with Kyle Hamilton, you just get him in the building and you just worry about that later. There's no reason for him to fall the top 10. Especially if a quarterback or two gets selected in the top 10. One of those teams like the Giants or Jets, there's no way he passes twice on their board and they don't end up selecting him.
Gotcha. And then Dax Hill, Lewis Seen, guys that could get into the first round. Dax Hill, I heard has some versatility, could maybe play some corner if needed. Or as of now, I've got him mocked to the Bengals because they could also use some safety help with Von Bell getting a little up in age and Jesse Bates being on that 1-year franchise tag.
Yeah, I think the Bengals would be a perfect spot. The Chiefs or Bengals to me seem like the clear spot for a Dax Hill, where you play him a little bit all over the field.
Oh yeah, the Chiefs could use it too. Yeah.
They're losing the Honey Badger potentially. They already lost.
The corner to the 49ers of Ward.
Yeah, so they're going to be in need of some defensive back help, and I think he feels that need. But Hill played it all over the field at Michigan, nickel, safety, a little bit of corner too. So he's kind of that versatile guy that you have on the back end. Don't think there's a true position to pin him to just yet, which may be the reason why he falls to the early second round. But I don't think he'd last more than a couple picks because I don't see a team like the Lions passing on him on multiple times. And maybe the Jets get him at 35 since they have 2 second-round picks as well. So I could very easily see him be gone, if not late round 1, early round 2.
Mm-hmm. And then Seen, is he more of a free safety or a strong safety?
Yeah, so he's a little bit of both. He can play like that Jesse Bates role in the defense, but he also hits like a Cam Chancellor. Like he laid a good lick in the national championship game on Brian Robinson. He ran the alley and lit him up. And he had a really good game against Alabama in the national championship, just being all over the field. So I think for Seen, he may be a surprise first rounder. A lot of people are talking about him.
Yeah, maybe the Detroit with that last pick.
Yeah, I think that the Eagles are very intrigued with him as a potential pick one of their two first round picks.
Wow, yeah, he'd go really high. Then they pick 15 and 18. So yeah, but that's the thing with this draft. You never know. We think we've got it all pegged, and then the teams end up doing stuff completely different than what we're thinking. But as far as the safety class, we go back to the with these guys at the end. Any who's a spicy name here that could be a stud in these mid rounds?
Yeah, I think Kirby Joseph from Illinois. I think he can be someone that a team brings in and has some tremendous ball skills and some athleticism too. He showed me the ability to play some man coverage as well on like tight ends or bigger slots. So I think he's someone that could be a good value pick in late in round 3 or early round 4. If you're looking for a guy that can play multiple positions on the back end and kind of fill in spots that you need more so than being a traditional safety. So I think he's someone to watch.
Right on. Then another Raging Cajun cracks the list. Percy Butler. Think he's a guy that's going to be drafted there in around the 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I think he's certainly going to be probably in the 5th, 6th round range, but he's going to be, I think, early on probably a special teams type of player. But I think he showed enough in his film to be selected in that range and be someone that you bring in and kind of mold as a probably a strong safety, play in the box, a thumper, someone that can make tackles on the perimeter. So I think there's going to be some value for him as the last few rounds start to close up, and I can see a team taking a chance on him. Maybe even team. I know the team that's loaded at safety, but maybe he just feels like a Las Vegas Raider type of player, where they want someone that's a little bit bigger that can kind of stick in the box. I know they selected I think like 2 or 3 safeties last year, but they love them some safeties. I could see them sticking somewhere in the AFC West, maybe like I said, the Raiders or maybe a team like the Chiefs
Yeah,
if
to
they want
replace
to
Honey
continue to
Badger.
add depth.
Yep. Yeah, they're gonna need some depth there, and maybe even the Chargers. Derwin James on a contract year.
Yeah, I mean the Chargers could use some depth in the safety room too, but he just feels like a player that belongs in the AFC West with his play style.
Right, yeah, Denver too. With Kareem Jackson, an older, strong safety there on a contract. You're right, Dev. Yeah, he'll probably end up there at something. It's gonna be he'll have his hands full with all those quarterbacks there, man. The AFC West is a freaking gauntlet.
Yeah, that they're every team in that division needs to load up on defensive backs because if one or two gets hurt, you're going to need the guys that can match up
Hmm.
with these explosive offenses.
Yep, he will be picked apart if not. But yeah, it's gonna put a bow on this 2022 talk. Whew, man, we had a lot of names to digest, but hope y'all learned a lot from it. We're gonna see where they all end up on draft night. But before we close out, for those that stuck around, appreciate y'all for sticking with us here for this scouting episode. We'll leave y'all with a little bit of 2023 talk before we sign off. I guess we'll make it brief here. Who are your top 5, Devin, for 2023, or have you gotten that far yet? If not, just give me some names you like.
Yeah. I haven't ranked them just yet, but there are some interesting names. The quarterback class is going to be a lot better than this year. So CJ Stroud as well as Bryce Young are the 2 quarterbacks to know heading into 2023, and then probably the top overall player heading into 2023, Will Anderson, the edge rusher from Bama. Just fantastic. Probably should have won the Heisman this year. It was just that dominant. So those are some of the top guys that I would say, obviously Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson are the top 3 guys I think people are going to be talking about or visit first. A few other names that you should probably know. I think specifically, trying to think of the defensive side of the ball. Let me pull up some names here that I have on a 2023 watch list. Jameer Gibbs, the former Georgia Tech running back that turned to or transferred to Alabama, He had a really good spring game for Bama, so they're going to have a 1-2 punch there. But another running back, Bijan Robinson, the Texas running back, he's going to be somebody that could be the first running back taken off the board and the first running back that goes maybe in the top 10, 15 in a couple years. So he's a really talented back. Then a tight end to watch out for, Michael Mayer, the Notre Dame tight end. He's someone that is a big target. Really made some great plays. And just is an absolute beast. So there's some names to drop, and I thought just name some skill guys, but those are some of the top names that heading into 2023 people are going to be all over, especially the quarterbacks, Will Anderson and then Bijan Robinson. Those they're all like the consensus top players, heading into next year for sure, just without a doubt. But in terms of receivers, the receiver group, there are some interesting names. But I think like Keyshawn Butte from LSU is a big name. Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State, he's another big name who outproduced Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave in the Rose Bowl. So he's a big name to watch too heading into next year. So there's a plenty of skill position guys in 2023 that they're going to be talked about a ton, but those are some of the top names.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Keyshawn, I covered him in high school, and man, that you talk about fast. Oh my God, he
Yeah,
may have been the
and there's the
fastest
only
guy I've
reason
ever covered.
he's probably not talked about more. But I mean, even with LSU's issues on their offense, he still was making plays.
Yes, indeed. Whew, man. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, man. So we'll cap off the 2023 talk there because we've got still got the 2022 draft to go. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We'll run down the board a little bit for y'all. Our top quarterback Malik Willis, top running back Brees Hall, top receiver very much up for debate. Garrett Wilson though will probably be the top one. Top tight end Trey McBride, top tackle Evan Neal, top interior lineman probably Zion Johnson, but Linderbaum good too. Probably Linderbaum the best pure center. Defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, defensive tackle Jordan Davis. Linebacker, we'll just combine them. Devin Lloyd, cornerback, Sauce Stingley, really close. I'll probably go with Sauce, but Stingley could easily get that top spot. And then safety, of course, Kyle Hamilton. But that's going to do it for this one. Devin, any final thoughts before we sign off here?
Yeah, this 2022 class has been fun to study. Just a lot of position groups that have more talent than we've seen in recent years. Obviously, receiver is always going to be at the top of the list, but edge is extremely deep, as well as corner. So very excited to see how all things shake out, and just excited to see who lands where. I think the quarterbacks are going to be interesting to see where they land and see how they develop over time. But I'm just excited to get this draft started and see where everyone falls. But I think by the time we get through draft weekend, there's going to be more answers to these questions, especially around the quarterback class and who comes first off the receiver run, because there's going to be a run on receivers probably in the early to late teens where teams need it, or maybe teams that don't even need it just take the best player available. So very interested to see, especially in that 11 to 20 range. I think a lot of shakeup can happen there.
Yep, and then potential trades, man. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. We're gonna have to buckle our seatbelts. It's gonna be a wild ride, but hopefully the Saints can come out of it with a couple decent picks. But before we sign off, I know you living in NOLA now. But you're not originally from there. So are you a Saints fan, or you have a team from back home that you prefer?
Yeah, I'm a Saints fan. Grew up a Saints fan. My
Oh hell
family
yeah!
is from New Orleans, so they
Who that
raised me to be a
nation?
Saints fan. So, but yeah, I'm a big Saints fan. Obviously following everything they've been doing in the game to help cover them has been awesome. But we'll see where they go. I think they ultimately probably go. My guess right now would be tackle and receiver, just because they need a tackle, and maybe a Charles Cross falls to them. But they certainly need to upgrade the receiving room, and I think they'll do that.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, hopefully not a quarterback. But anyway, we'll put a bow on this one, y'all. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. Appreciate Devin for coming on. You're welcome back anytime, bro. This was a fun episode.
For sure, sure. Happy to be on again and talk some more ball, man.
Yes, indeed. All right, everybody. Appreciate everyone from the Guru Nation that tuned in. We'll be back shortly with some more draft talk and fantasy football talk. So y'all stay tuned. Peace.